My name is Jonathan Hicks. We're doing adding and subtracting with negative algebra terms. Now that's a bit of a mouthful. You need to have watched the adding and subtracting with algebra video first, basically. This is like the follow-on video to that one. I said in that video that minus signs often cause a lot of problems. When you're having to deal with negative things, it can really throw a spanner in the works. Now, again, when I did the algebra intro video, I said one of the foundational topics, the number topics that you need to be familiar with is negative numbers. You need to be really strong on that. If you're not, it will make this a lot harder. But if you're confident adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing negative numbers, you'll find this very easy. There's no extra sort of learning required here. It's the same thing as all the other algebra stuff, the collecting that we've done. It just involves minus signs. So let me give you some examples, and in particular there's one way I want you to think about this which should help a lot in terms of unraveling what's actually going on. Actually, before we launch into the example, let me perhaps make one little point. Everything in algebra has a sign. When I say sign, I mean either a positive sign or a negative sign. Everything is either positive or negative. So if, for example, I have the number minus 3, then this number has a minus sign. There it is. And we always write the sign for the number in front of it. We never put the minus sign at the end. It's minus 3, it's not 3 minus. If you have a positive number, if I had the number 2, then I just write it like that. I don't write positive 2. We assume if there's no sign in front of it, that it's positive. Bear this in mind. It's exactly the same in algebra. And let me give you an example here to help. So if we had 4 lots of A plus 2 lots of B minus 6 lots of A plus 1 lot of B. Now, you're combining the A's together, and then we're going to combine the B's together. So 4 lots of A minus 6 lots of A all together. If you start off at 4 and go down by 6, that's going to take you to minus 2. So you've got minus 2 lots of A. Then we combine the B's together. You've got 2 lots of B plus a third B. So all together you've got 3 lots of B. Now if you add 2 lots of B and then add another one, that's the same thing as adding 3 lots of B. That's the way I would have sold it to you in the last video. But a better way to think about this is to treat every single one of these terms as having a sign which is either positive or negative, and the sign always goes in front. So this B is a positive 1B. And sometimes it's helpful to circle them so you realise that this sign attaches to the B. This is not 6A, it's minus 6A, and that minus sign attaches to this, like so. This is a positive 2B. This is, oh, where's the sign? Now remember I said if we have a positive number, like 2, you don't bother writing plus 2. And in algebra in general, you always have to put the sign in front of whatever it belongs to, unless it's the very first thing and it happens to be positive. If it's the first thing, so this after the equal sign here, this is the first thing, but it's negative, so we're writing the sign. But this is the first thing at the front here, and it's positive, so we don't bother writing the sign. But there is a plus sign there. You can kind of imagine a little plus that would sit in front of that goes with that. This is not 2A, it's minus 2A, and this is positive 3B. Now, you might think, well, hang on, isn't this 4A plus 2B? As in, aren't you adding the two things together? In theory, it's the same. There's no difference between a minus sign, which means subtract, and a minus because this is a negative number. You've probably been taught those two topics as separate things, but actually in maths they're not. They're absolutely the same. A minus sign is a minus sign wherever you see it, whether it means it's negative or subtraction, either way is fine. What I'm telling you here though is you will find it a lot easier, you'll make a lot less mistakes when combining things together if you treat these as signs that attach to the things that they're next to, rather than adding and subtracting. So think of this as a positive sign, and this is a negative sign, so that's negative 6 lots of A. If you think about it like that, and it's an arbitrary distinction, but if you think about it like that, it'll just make things a lot easier. Let me give you another example. So if we've got 2a this time minus 4b plus 6a plus 5b, and we work out what we've got. So 2 lots of a plus 6 lots of a. Remember that plus sign is going to attach to the 6. So it's like positive 2 lots of a, if you imagine there's sort of a plus sign there, plus 6 lots of a. So altogether that's going to give you positive 8 lots of a. And again, we don't need to write the plus sign here. There's a kind of imaginary plus sign that would sit there that we don't need to bother writing because it's the first thing and it happens to be positive. Now this is where a lot of people would make mistakes when combining the b's. A lot of people would look at this and say, okay, I've got 4 lots of b plus 5 lots of b, that's 9 lots of b. And that's wrong, because that's not 4 lots of b. The number in front of the b here is not 4. I know it looks like 4, it's minus 4. Yeah, this minus sign attaches to the 4b. It belongs together. You've got minus 4 lots of b, and then you're adding, because you've got a positive here, you're adding 5 lots of b. So if you start, this is 0, if you start down at minus 4 lots of b, then you add 5 lots of b, that's going to take you into the positives. Minus 4 plus 5 gives you positive 1b. Now I don't need to write the 1, there's a kind of imaginary 1 there, but I do need to write the plus thing. The only time you don't need to write the sign is if it's the very first thing and it happens to be positive, in which case there's a kind of imaginary plus there. But this needs a sign in front of it. And the thing that you write here is whatever it ends up being. Minus 4b plus 5b ended up being positive, so I wrote a plus sign. If it ended up being negative, I would be writing a minus sign. Alright, let me do a couple more examples. But if you treat it like that, you'll find it a lot easier. So we'll have x minus 5y minus 3x plus 2y. Now I won't go around circling everything this time. Try and picture where those circles would be. So I'm combining the x's. I've got imaginary plus 1 lot of x minus 3 lots of x. Yep, that minus sign attaches to the 3x. It's a minus 3x. So 1 lot of x minus 3 lots of x give me minus 2 lots of x. I've then got the y's here, and I look at the signs carefully. It's minus 5 lots of y plus 2 lots of y. If you start off at minus 5 and you go up by 2, you're going to get to minus 3 lots of y. And look at where the signs are. Yeah, this 2x is actually a negative 2x because 1 minus 3 gives you minus 2. That's why there's a minus sign there. The minus sign that's here attaches to the 3y. It's a negative 3y because if you have negative 5y and you add 2y, you end up at negative 3y. Yeah, minus 5 plus 2 is minus 3. A lot of people struggle to work out what the sign should be between these two terms. The sign sticks to that one. It's whatever that is. If that turns out to be positive, you write a plus in the middle. If that turns out to be negative, like this one, you write a minus in the middle. Okay, let's have 5 lots of p minus q plus 2 lots of p minus 3 lots of q. So 5p, positive, plus 2p gives you 7p. It's positive, and it's the first thing after the equal sign, so I don't need to bother writing the plus. Minus 1 lot of q minus another 3 lots of q means altogether, if you start off at minus 1 and go down by another 3, you end up at minus 4, so you've got minus 4 lots of q. This sign between these two things is not really sitting between them, it attaches to the 4q because you've actually got negative 4q. If you start off at minus 1 and go down by 3, you end up at minus 4 lots of q. So those are the things you really need to bear in mind here. And I can perhaps illustrate the point here. One thing that becomes important later is the number in front of a letter, which tells you how many lots of that letter you have, becomes very important. So there's a 5 here in front of the p. That means I've got 5 lots of whatever number p turns out to be. Remember that all the letters are actually numbers. They're unknown numbers that we haven't figured out yet. So if p turned out to be 3, and 5p will be 15. Yeah, because these two things are next to each other, they're multiplying. It's 5 lots of 3, that would be 15. So the number in front of a letter tells you how many lots of it you got, and as I say, it's very important. So the number in front of this p is 5. The number in front of this p is 2. It's a positive 2 because of this plus sign, it attaches to the 2. The number in front of this q is not 3, it's minus 3. It's very important. This minus sign attaches to the 3, so you've got minus 3 lots of q. The number in front of this x is 1. There is always a number in front of a letter. If we don't write it, that means you've actually got one lot of whatever letter there is. There's one x there, so the number in front of it is a kind of imaginary 1. The number in front of the q, think about that for a moment. Well, there's an imaginary 1, there's no other number there, so you've kind of got one lot of q, but it's minus. So the number in front of the q here is minus 1. That 1 catches loads of people out, so be very careful. If there's no number in front, you can imagine a 1 there. If it's positive, then it's positive 1, but if there's a minus sign, that means the number in front of the q here is minus 1. So be really careful with those. As I said sort of in the intro algebra video, you really need to practice this. If you just Google online algebra collecting or adding and subtracting practice, you'll find tons and tons of people have done worksheets that you can practice these kind of things, and they'll provide you with the answers so you can check it and make sure it's all right. But you basically need to do lots and lots of these. Just keep doing problem after problem, combining them together. But imagine the signs as attaching to the thing on the right, and it will save you the world of heartache later on.